Okay, welcome to Democratic Services Committee meeting. I suppose if we go first through apologies for absence. I've had one from Sarah Jones. Any more?
I'm not quite sure if Roger Harris.
I think he might be away. Yes. Yeah, I've heard he's gone away, yeah. Public open forum. There is no public here. Declarations of interest, as and when. Everybody's happy with that? So the next is just to confirm the last minutes, and this is just for accuracy. So if we go through those, so page 1 of the minutes, but page 3 of the bundle. Page 4 of the bundle. Page 5. Page 6 of the bundle. Everybody happy with the accuracy of those minutes? Okay, going on to the action plan then, which is on page 7. So if we just quickly go down those points. So the first one was to find out if support was required by the Cabinet members.
I'm just speaking with members.
Discussion around SRS and IT problems. With that, I have been sort of talking to 1 or 2 councillors to get bits and pieces of information, and then aware that there was an online survey that's been put out for all members of staff looking at any issues that people are having with IT and support that they might need. On the back of that, I then met with Sean Hayward because she's coordinating all of this. What was interesting from Sean is that she was saying that the issues she's picking up from us as members are very similar to the issues she's picking up from other members of staff. And she's kind of given me a list here. But what she's wanting to do is to put a small report together to highlight what those issues are, and a result of that, putting like a checklist together. So for example, if somebody's not been able to get a password, that's one of the most common issues people are having, then there's a little bit of information beside it as how to get your password in and how to sort of link in with that. Another issue is your memory, 500 megabytes for your memory, and sometimes, you know, when you want to email something and it won't go out anywhere, and it's because you've got too much information in the computer. Again, it's a common problem. So the long and short of it is that she's happy to come on the next meeting. With it, she will bring the list or the summary of the issues and a checklist on how some of these issues can be dealt with. She's also saying that if you have any issues, do contact her so she can log them, and obviously SRS in order to deal with them. But she's also looking to have, we've got champions for everything, haven't we, these days, but they're going to have digital champions, so that if you've got a problem, you know who you can go to. I mean, I think at the minute we tend to go to John Pearson, I think, for many of our issues. So that's to date the information I've got. But Dougie?
Yes, Chair. The memory problem, I thought that had been resolved. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I've got unlimited memory because it's, you know, you get these reports so fast these days that it seems pretty pointless to put a block on the memory side of it. So I think as far as any member is concerned, I think they should have open sesame.
Yeah.
Chairman, could she bring somebody technical with her to the next meeting? Presuming the member you're talking about is not an IT expert, wouldn't it be better if we had somebody who actually knew the way around the system?
Yeah, answer some of the questions then, yeah.
Yes, Chair. I thought the password situation had been sorted out. It's been well explained when you get the emails, the information from them. So I thought that had been sorted.
Yes, it has, and it's easy to change your password. The trouble is that a few days after I changed my password, I could only get into the computer using the new password, and then I could only go further using my old password. that the whole thing hadn't configured properly. So there are still, yeah, but I had to go through SRS and it took them to do it. Some time, I may add, to do it.
Thank you, Chair. I think as a Democratic Services Committee, our remit is to make sure that people can get access as and when they need to. And I suppose what we should be seeking is assurance that how people can get their problems resolved quickly and effectively. You know, and we can go into all the detail, but I think at the end of the day, I mean, when I suppose because I know people, I've asked Sean and people like that when I've had a problem, and they've fixed it instantly. Yes, this is what you do, job done. And so that's what people need to have, is how quickly can they get reference to somebody who will fix it. And I think that's what we should be concentrating on. So when she comes to the next meeting, it'll be good to know, well, what is the procedure to get a quick response to our problem. That's the important thing.
I'd just like to add to that, we did discuss it at the last meeting, but the problem is that the breakdowns are often at night time or at weekends. So there is no answer to that because of the cost of another member of staff.
I think this is one of the reasons why Sean is saying if we know sort of what the issues are, there might be some of them where if you've just got a checklist, so if this happens, do this, could actually mean that you could resolve your own issues. And then having layers of contact so that you have a digital champion you can go to, you can go to SRS, and hopefully some of these issues will get less and less. So are people happy then if we put that on the agenda for the May, and then with it she'll bring a report with this checklist and perhaps herself and somebody technical, just in case there's any questions we need to ask. Happy with that?
Still think, Chairman, it makes a bit of a nonsense of the fact that agile working, flexibility, etc., that you don't provide 24-hour, 7-day-a-week support. It's going to cost, but that's part of the system. You say agile working, it applies to members, it applies to staff as well. So I just find it strange.
I mean, this is your committee, so it's what you want to do with it, really. I suppose if we're looking to have out of hours service and it is going to cost 30,000, then I guess this is something that we'd have to put forward as a recommendation to full council. But this is your committee, whatever you want to do next.
Right, Chairman, I'm just surprised that a figure could be plucked out of the air like that, and I'm not quite sure how you arrive at 35,000 for a weekend's work of standby. I mean, you've got other services that operate for 365 days of the year, 24 hours of the day. Strange.
The figure was provided by Sean, and if we're inviting Sean to the next meeting, I suggest we ask the question.
Sorry I was late, Chairman. Just one thing, couldn't it be incorporated with a highways emergency service and now you could pass the phone calls on to somebody? It could be incorporated with that. A lot less cost, I'm sure.
One of the problems which I'd like to discuss when we meet these people is why we can't get on at weekends often. You know, we just will not go on. And I suspect they're working on the system in Blaenavon at that time, which means there are people there anyway, Val, and therefore the cost is probably wrong. And I'd like to, perhaps we can ask how that is calculated, because there's obviously somebody up there when we can't get on the system.
So are you happy that we include that then? Because all these questions, I think, are good questions to ask Sean and the technical person. Yeah. Okay. Next was investigate database management software for members. Over to Tracy.
The system that we've got in place, which is used by the Liberal Democrats, is Casework Manager. And I don't know whether or not Councillor Edwards could outline the benefits or not of using that system, and whether or not members want to actually have their own Casework Manager system themselves. So, yes, there is software out there. Do you want to pursue it, or are members happy that they are managing their constituency business anyway?
Open.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I find if you do regular surgeries, you're having a closer contact with your residents and having the database. Yes, I'm not saying it's not useful, but I find it better by having surgeries or going to meet your the people who elected you to do the job.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I keep file notes every time there's a contact. Somebody will contact me and say, what's the problem, etc. And every time I action something on that particular query, I update the file. You know, I think that's what a lot of us would do. If there's software there which sort of facilitates that, in other words, you don't have to keep it sort of jogs you to put in the date and who was it and have you gone back to them and raise alarms and that sort of thing. I think there'd be some mileage in that, yes, and I'd be willing to look at that personally. I mean, I get along without that because I make my personal records, but if there's something that that would streamline and make the recording consistent, then I think, yeah, we should look at that.
Can I suggest that we organise a demonstration for the next meeting? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the level you want it, or?
Chair, I was one of the people who was trying to get that, and I walked in one morning and lo and behold there was a board there telling me what meetings were on in the council chamber, and I gave 3 cheers because I think that's absolutely fantastic that we made a step forward, you know, because we're always sort of complaining and asking and all that, and it actually happened there and I was very, very pleased. I think it's still a bit of getting used to and putting the right information on, etc. And it's going to be kept up to date, but it's a major step forward. So the public, when they visit these buildings, can now go to that board and say, well, what's on today, or what room should I be in, or when will that end, etc. Or is it being live streamed? I don't know if that information's on the board. That might be useful, so that if people are there the day before, they know, oh, there's a meeting tomorrow, oh, it's live streamed, yes, I'll make a record of that. So all this is communication to members and to the public. A good step forward, I think.
I think it should also be the same board. I've seen the board and I thought that was really good as well. But I think it should also be in the one-stop shops as you enter the one-stop shops, so that the people around the area know what's going on. And also, I don't know if it happens, but I've asked for live streaming down below on the television screen of our meetings, so that if we've got an officer that's not sure when to come to this meeting, rather than stay from 2 till 5 for his spot, he can go nip down, have a look at the screen and see how far we are with our meeting to save time. I don't know if that's possible, but it's just an idea, rather than the officer wasting a lot of time. Yes.
I was disappointed with the size of the board, quite frankly. I fully expected to see it on the screen downstairs. So, you know, and I think it's still needed. You know, I think it's such a small little board. While I appreciate that we've made a step forward, why can't we put it up on the main sort of screen in the...
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I agree with John. I'd like to see it, but how disappointingly done. You know, we're a professional £150 million a year business, and we stick a piece of paper on a stand at the bottom of the stairs. Could we not please do it professionally, properly, and look as if we really mean to do it?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. The comment I want to make is that, you know, whatever information there is needed just inside in the reception area. It says we talk about all on first floor. We don't need it up here. People, as they come through, visitors, and they want to know what's going on, so they can either go straight, stay on that floor, or go up if required.
Thought it looked a bit amateurish, you know, a last-minute bit of paper. I was thinking if it can't go on screen, which seems to me the ideal thing, to have it on screen when the screen is there, is to have it on a board. I don't know if you've been to the vets or whatever, you see a great big board with all the names of everybody, something like that, big and bold and updated regularly.
presume the board we're talking about is the one that's at the foot of the stairs. Yeah. So you've got to be in the inner sanctum before you can actually read it. You can't stand at the desk outside with an inquiry and idly look at it. I don't think it... We should do better. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Peter. It is totally inadequate.
If I start with the last one first, I don't know is the honest answer. I don't know where that board is. In terms of why we've not put it on the screen, it's because the screen, if the information around meetings is pretty static, and so what we've tried, the screen is being utilised to tell the story of Monmouthshire and what's going on in the council. So if people are sat in reception, they can look at the screen instead of having static information around what meetings are going on today or tomorrow in the council. They've got information about the services that we're providing, information about how effective we are, and a whole range of things. So that's why it's not been put up on the screen. If you wanted, if you wanted another screen, then I'm not quite sure where the best place would be to put that screen in terms of the reception, because I do take on board your points about visibility to people coming in. And so what we try to do is to come up with something that was a simple solution. You did get the information. We can improve taking on board Councillor Prosser's comments about adding information to it. It was a fairly simple solution to a problem, but if members aren't satisfied with that and they want to have an alternative solution, then clearly, I'm happy to look at that and cost it up. I don't know if that... Oh, and in terms of the live streaming, as officers, we can access live streaming on our laptop, so we will know where things are in a meeting off our laptop, so you wouldn't need to necessarily to go downstairs. They can access it anyway.
Yes, do, yes.
Just the size of the screen as well. We're talking about the size of the actual notice board, the physical notice board. The actual television screen, I would have hoped, when I knew that it was happening, was going to be a lot larger than that. It's quite small, isn't it? But I expect that's done and dusted now. I don't suppose we've got the opportunity to change that.
So are you happy then? Because yes, I think that was the point. It was sort of getting something out there quickly, so at least the information is out there to kind of to respond to Councillor Prosser's idea really. So are you happy then? Some further investigation will take place looking at the other options of having a screen, a bigger screen, and looking at how much that'll cost. Are you happy with that? Yeah. Update on issues with chamber and group officers. The only outstanding thing we have at the minute is the heating issues, which seem to be ongoing. I don't know if anybody has anything to say about that.
Yes, Madam Chair, it's too hot in the chamber.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest with you, you can be here sometimes at meetings and it's just driving you off to sleep. I know the complaint was too cold, but I find it, and I don't know why half the time you come in here and these electric heaters are on either.
So are you happy that we keep this on the agenda really and just keep chasing up to find out what's happening?
It's accepted by the body who run this setup that it's not functioning properly, and they are following up and trying to remedy.
So what I need to do is bring a report back to the next meeting just so that you know what's happening in the process.
Yes, Chair. Rather than just say we chase it every meeting, I'd like to think that we get a report back here to tell us what the status is and what the projected resolution is, so we get an end game in this. Otherwise, we would just be receiving it every meeting, won't we?
Chairman, last autumn, Chief Executive and our leader told me that we were to be air conditioned in here. So that would be interesting.
So you happy for us to move along with that? But yeah, I do take your point actually. Let's get a report. Let's see what the answer to the problem is, and yeah, see if we can put an end to that one. Telephone directory update. I've got here ongoing, but any update there?
John Pearson and I have met and we went through some form, and if I'm honest, I thought there might have been something here in the agenda, but he does have an election on his mind at the moment, so it is not a dead duck. We are progressing and we're feeling quite pleased with ourselves. No satisfaction to you folks.
Do you want us to put that on the agenda for the May? Because I think the next meeting's in May. So we'll hope then we'll have something to look at in May.
As I say, I didn't think that it would be at the end of the day.
Dates for
Madam Chair.
councillors. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry.
Going on to the directory, we got the new diaries coming out now in May. Could we not have a smaller version of it added into the pages with the diary?
That would be a good idea. Is it too late to do that?
Too late, I should think.
It's certainly too late in terms of the printing, because the diary is already being printed, so from that perspective it's not possible. Whether or not in terms of producing a telephone directory, we can make it a small size, shrink it so that
And punch a couple of
it's slot into
punch a couple of holes in it, and they could fit into the diary. Huh?
I think it might be quite.
There's not that many offices, you know.
Okay.
Councillor Clark, you've got your light.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, in relation to adding to the diary, I got a job to get my diary in my pocket now. And if you started put on, and you look at that, the address list on there, I tell you what, it's phenomenal. I mean, we somewhere in the region of 4,000 employees, and most of them their names are on that list. And for me, I actually, that's not practical, not for my part. I mean, because a smaller directory rather than the old A4 size one that we used to have, which I still got. But, you know, obviously needs updating, and that's why we got to do it. But I think it needs to be separate from the diary.
So we're happy then. We'll just leave it that. We'll bring it to the next meeting for us to look at, but not to go into the small diary.
Can I just come back, Chairman? It's more on a schematic, if you like, with identification of members, but it's not the full 4,000 names, I can assure you. Don't have any expectations of that, Jim.
Yeah, I've sort of lost track of why we're trying to do this, because all the telephone numbers are accessible on the hub of every member and every officer.
If you need,
And you can go in, and so we've got we've all got our electronic gadgets, etc. So we've all got access to the telephone directory. And I had some training on the hub last week, and lo and behold, I can now find the organogram with pictures. I was absolutely amazed because I've been looking for that for years, to be honest with you. But I've actually I know how to do it, and I think everybody else should be taught how to do it as well. But so the telephone directory is actually available to us, and I've sort of lost the thread a bit. Are we saying we need to have hard copy as well? Because I think we're going past that stage now, aren't we, as a council?
I think just sort of coming back, I think we had a lengthy discussion about this, and it was that, yes, you can get everything online, but it's just when you're out and about in rural areas and you're trying to get access to numbers. So that's why I think Val and John are looking at a kind of a summarised version. So obviously it's not going to be as big as the list that you're going to get online, but just a summarised version for people just to quickly pick up when they're looking for numbers. And that's the reasoning behind
If I
it.
could come back on that, because for me to access the electronic system at home, it takes 5 minutes to warm up, which can be a trifle frustrating, and I can do better things with my time. So to be able to quickly turn something, pick up a phone and throw is much better for me.
Can I just say we did agree that a hard copy would go into each of the group rooms, which would be ideal. Thank you.
The dates, councillors about town, we've got those dates. We're going to do another one for Abergavenny. The feedback was, well, definitely from Chepstow, is we probably need to advertise it more, and we need a clear label as to who we are when we're there, because it's just Monmouthshire County Council, and we probably need a label to say, you know, you come and meet your county councillor, find out what they do, how you can, you know, support or challenge, you know, decisions that are being made, or that kind of thing. But that was kind of the feedback from there.
Chair, when's the next date for Abergavenny?
I haven't got one yet, but we will put one in there.
Madam Chair, you did come to Caldicot. It wasn't very well turned out, but it was positive. But you're right what you just said about they didn't know who he was. They just knew it was Monmouthshire County Council. But one good thing that came out of it was residents having problems with damp, and that has been followed up now. And meetings have been held with the housing associations to try and overcome it with the health visitor.
Something that I've become aware of in the last 10 days. I assumed that community and town councils were informed of all our meetings, so that if they were interested in coming to democratic services or strong communities, they knew when those meetings were occurring. And it would seem that we don't notify them. You're a community councillor, Peter, and this came up at Llanbaddock, that they're not notified of the meetings. And I think it's very important that they should be.
Just the council and cabinet meetings are emailed to members, to town and community councils, but the other meetings aren't by standard. But I mean, we've got all of the details, but everything's on the website. But
it's a simple way of alerting people. At that self-same meeting, I made reference to Strong Communities meeting that took place last week. Oh, said the chairman, oh gosh, I can't make that this week because of whatever. They had no inkling but they had an issue that they would have liked to listen to and discuss. You're going round with a caravan trying to alert the people to the fact that Monmouthshire County Council still exists, and yet we don't bother to tell them about meetings that they could come and have input into.
So are you suggesting that?
Suggesting yes, please.
So suggesting that sort of to all community and town councils or to the clerks to then pass that information on? What
is to the clerks?
Yeah. The next one. Oh yes, training. We requested some training on the hub. And Councillor Prosser, you said you did attend that. Did anybody else? I know there was only about 4 people, I think, wasn't there?
Thank you, Chair. It was a drop-in session at the end of the day. It wasn't a sort of training as such, because I wasn't sure what to expect, whether it was going to be a seminar or a presentation or whatever. But anyway, I turned up, and as it happened, I had a personalised session of this is how you handle the hub, basically. And so it was useful to find out things I didn't know, how to access new innovations. And I think what is happening is a lot of background work is going on with webs and councillors' web pages and all sorts of things, but it's not getting related to the members in enough detail, I don't think. So, yes, we had a drop-in session, and I don't think many people turned up, to be honest with you. I might be one of the few. But if we could organise a formal session where, this is what's going to happen, this is what you're going to be told, I think it may be more interest then. Because there's some good work going on, there's some excellent work, and we just need to make sure everybody knows.
Chair, can I ask who actually did John meet? I said, who did John meet? Because whoever's doing the training or whatever you like to call it needs to be competent.
Matthew was one of the trainers from the hub, and there's a number of drop-in sessions that have been organised. We thought about a seminar, and generally a seminar you can get, generally the average turnout for members is about 12 to 15 members. So we felt that if we organised a range of drop-in sessions around the hub, then we would potentially capture more members. So more members would have the opportunity, because they'd be in the building, and they'd have the opportunity to have a session with Matthew or one of his colleagues around how to use the hub.
Could I just make a request in terms of the sessions, just to clarify, because you tend to get an email saying there's a date and there's some training on the hub, and even I, this chair, was questioning what does that look like? What am I expecting? So I think as you suggest, it's sort of an email saying, as a response to the need to know how to use the hub, how to get data, these sessions, and then a list of dates, just so people sort of know they're happening in advance, perhaps. I don't know.
I've got one here. The next one is the 26th of March, 12 o'clock. Hub drop-in section at headquarters. Unfortunately, the other one coincided with us.
Madam Chair, these drop-in sessions are okay, but when councillors come in here, they also got other work to do when they're coming up here. And it's not convenient to be sitting out on the landing trying to take in what you're being told when you've got people going past, talking to you, saying hello on this. I think if we're going to do it, a drop-in session, it should be in a room on its own, you know, where people can concentrate on what they're being told. And I don't think it's fair to the person who is trying to explain to you either.
And then, we had Abigail from Communications looking at basically how many clicks is it to find you on the website. And there was to be a standard template sent out to members so that you know what information to give them to then put on the website. Again, I don't know if anybody's got anything to say about that.
Certainly, we've been doing a lot of work around the website from a democracy perspective, and John Pearson's been working really hard on the members' pages, and I think he's contacted all members to say, can you have a look at your pages if you're not happy, if you want additional information, if you want it changed, then can you contact him. So I think we've made huge progress in this area, considering that we've got a new website. But obviously, I would encourage all members to get back to John, because obviously it's only as good as the information that we've got to hand. So if you've got further information, then please send it through.
Okay, so we're now going to agenda item 6, and that's the WLG professional development template, I guess. And that sort of highlights the knowledge, the skills, the competencies that we should have. I guess what we need to do with this, it's kind of a consultation document. There is still time to put in some sort of a response. The questions really, does this framework cover the roles of you as members? Do you think it's a good reflection of what you do as members? Anything you want to add? Anything you want to take out? Are you happy with the terminology and the language? So, open to you.
And it says closing date for response is the 4th.
No, that we still have time. I did ask that question, but there is still time to send in a response.
Sarah,
I just would like to say that I found it quite clear and concise, quite repetitive in places, but yes, clear and concise. So I don't think there's any more that I would I personally.
You didn't see any gaps or anything?
No, I didn't. No.
Yes, it covers everything in the sense of what is the ideal councillor, basically, and what are the roles. I sat back and reflected on all this, and I thought, well, yes, that's where we want to be, but I would hate for it to be prescriptive and to deter anyone from being a councillor. And I'm very nervous about that, to be honest with you, because if we want people to represent the people, you know, and I think to myself, well, yeah, that's fine. It's like a business job description, really, isn't it? You know, and I think to myself, well, that's fine. That's where we would like to be. If we had, 43 perfect councillors, that'd be wonderful. But there's no such thing as perfection. And so they are guidelines, it's a framework, I understand that. And I'm just expressing my nervousness about how much you sort of demand that these things are met. I think there should be a qualifying statement that says something like, these are the aspirations of what makes a good councillor, but it should not deter you from wanting to be one, because you will get training along the way, no matter how many years it takes, or something like that, just to qualify it a bit. And that's the only thing. But apart from that, yes, it covers all the necessary detail, but it's just, it gets a bit overpowering sometimes, I feel.
I must admit, when I read it, I found it useful in order to identify areas of learning for me. So it was, well, I'm quite good at that I probably need a bit more work on. And it's useful as part of like a self-assessment or evaluation of your skills. So for me, it's very useful. I definitely take your point that actually it's about providing training. Obviously, we know we have this, but that grant has been taken away from local authorities to develop, from the Welsh Government's taken that away. And I'd like Leighton Andrews to have a read of this, so he knows actually what's expected from a county councillor as well, I think.
If I could just add, I mean, I think taking on board Councillor Prosser's comments here, this is about continual professional development for councillors. It's not saying, as you know, if you're going out to be elected, that this is all the knowledge, skills and behaviours that you ought to demonstrate. And it's something that was put together by members and democratic support officers, so people like myself across Wales. And for me, what it does provide is, members will recall that we council endorsed the annual review and development policy for members. And I think this actually provides a good framework for members to think about their own training and development needs and think, okay, what do I need to do better? Where could I benefit from some training or some mentoring or whatever it is? So it just provides, for me, it provides a prompt for members to enable them to do that. And I I'll get a plug in now. I did send out a reminder to members, oh gosh, it must be about a month ago now, asking for members to say, do they want to actually have a review session, whether or not it's with their group leader, another councillor, myself, and I've had absolutely no response. I did also say, could members send through any training needs? Again, I've had absolutely no response.
With this then, 2 points. First of all, in terms of response, is there anything, a statement you want us to send forward on behalf of this committee? Just the second point then, in terms of looking forward to put an annual training programme together, and as Tracy was saying, she's relying on councillors coming forward to saying, well, I need training on this, that and the other. If nothing is coming forward from councillors, one, how can we get them to bring forward any suggestions? Or should we just put some sort of a framework together and then see if people are happy with it? Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, Chair. I mean, we're supposed to have appraisals, aren't we? Shouldn't it come back, or after we've done our annual report or something, can't something be picked up?
Yeah. I
don't know. There should be a way of, you want to provide. We could all want something different, and we can't afford that kind of training. So, what's going to happen when we do have training? The numbers are poor. So, we don't want to waste money with this, but perhaps we could find out, what a tick list or something, people could tick what they're really interested in, the most popular ones we could have training in, something like that. Sorry.
Okay, if I can just come back on that. What we do already is that generally we do refresher training on some of the standard skills and knowledge stuff that we would expect members to have, so things like equalities training, code of conduct, scrutiny training, performance management training. So we already run sort of a rolling programme of training, and then we try to supplement that with briefing sessions and seminars on particular issues that we might think would be useful to all members. But what we're not doing is that, if for example there is a need say 50% of the members wanted some specific training in a particular issue, we're not capturing that information, and that's where the the annual review set feedback would be really helpful, because money is tight. I haven't got money to say I'm going to organise training for one member on this particular issue, but if 20 members say we need training, then obviously I could get somebody in to provide that training in-house, or look for a cost-effective method of delivering that training. But without the feedback from members, it's very difficult to do that.
Is there any views on that? So, I mean, we could put the rolling programme out plus briefings and then just say, is there any outstanding training that you'd like to see, and see if anybody comes back with it, or as Penny suggested, maybe put 5 areas where we think training is needed, and just see if people are ticking it, and if there's a high level of want and need for it. I don't know, what's your thinking?
Madam Chair, we know the turnouts we get for seminars and training, and it's really, really poor. For 43 members of this council, it's really, really poor. And I think it was an eye-opener last week when we had that presentation from the Chief Executive on the white paper, and I could count them more or less on my 2 hands. I've only got 9 fingers.
I don't think we really need to look at it, because also what was in this paper was the role description for an executive member, and also for an elected member. We've already got our own, which have been passed. It has gone through full council, so I think just move on from there. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, very good. Oh, now a juicy subject now. Okay, so at full council there was a request to move full council meetings from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and asked if it could be brought as soon as possible to this meeting, which it has been done. I think in front of you you've got some information in terms of what other authorities do, trying to sort of see if there is any correlation between the time of a meeting. You're right. Has everybody got one, by the way? Has everybody got these? Oh, we'll hand them out.
Okay, no, you have it. It's okay, because I thought I knew that.
I think when we were looking at this, the purpose of doing this was to look at the times to see if by changing the time, one, could we increase access and therefore diversity of councillors being able to join in the process, I suppose, in terms of encouraging those who are employed and with childcare issues. The second reason is to look at increasing the access and participation of local residents. So if you had it at 5, would more people tune in and come in and participate? I have to thank John and Sarah for putting this information together, because they've done it very, very quickly, because we want to be able to come up with some sort of a recommendation to take to full council. You have just got it in front of you there. There's one paper in terms of they went out to us as members to say, would you be happy to move it to 5? Now, would a 5 o'clock start clash with existing commitments? We've got 11 people saying yes, it would clash. Would you support changing the start time? We've got 13 members as opposed to 4 who said they're not in support of the change. Looking at all the other local authorities, this where it's got the times, and then beside it's got male, female balance, and those above and below age 50. I've looked through it. I can't see any conclusive evidence that there's a correlation between increased diversity and late meetings. But, it is worth sort of looking at. Abigail as well put something out on the website to see what residents feel and what they think. Sadly, there was only 15 responses, partly because of the time restrictions, I suspect. 15 responses, but 10 of those said that, yes, they would like it to be at 5 o'clock. So, open to the floor. What's your thoughts?
the sheet, Gwynedd, 1 o'clock, and nothing's applicable to them. Why?
Yes, Chair, this is a very difficult one because we've had this, we had a survey with members a couple of years ago, didn't we? And when it was tried before and everyone said, no, keep status quo, please. I can see both sides of it, unfortunately, which doesn't help you make a decision. So I thought, I mean, I personally haven't got an issue. I can do any time. But there are people where it is an issue. And then I think to myself, well, when you do have full council, you have to have officer support. And they've got a working week. So it would be difficult if it was moved away from the normal time. But then for accessibility for those people who can only make evenings, it would be better for them. And so I said to myself, well, it's status quo at the moment, unless there's overwhelming evidence for me to change it. I think that's the stance I would take. And whereas I'm sympathetic to the demands of those who want it at 5, I don't think it's overwhelming at the moment that we should change it all. I'm here to be proved wrong, and but just looking at what's been presented today, and there are other authorities that are doing it at 5 o'clock. So, you say to yourself, well, how do they manage it? And it might be worth talking to some of those and saying, what's your experience of this? Does it cause problems at all? Just to gain a bit more information. So I'm very sympathetic to those who want it at 5 as well, and being sort of judgment of Solomon, I suppose you could say, well, of the, was it 6 or 7 council meetings in a session, perhaps one of them or 2 of them could be at 5. As a sort of a balance. But I think that's where it's sort of, I'm sorry to be sitting on the fence a bit here, but that's the sort of the only conclusion I can come to.
Yep, I personally, I do not want it changed. There are issues of, well, it's down quite clearly. There are issues of people who are carers for more than children. And there are people who have to look after their children in the evening, and there's a lot going on, as well as meetings. But I'd like to point out, we talk about people who are in employment. I was in employment for the first year, but the employers are supposed to let them attend so many council meetings a year. And this is never brought up, funnily enough. And I think this should be looked into more, and I think it should apply to full council meetings more than anything else, because they are the most important. So please can we find out, I really don't think for those people who work it is that great an issue.
Just on that point, because I know Councillor Higgins.
Public organisation, yes. Well, we ought to find out who's affected and what kind of employers, perhaps, before we do anything.
And I suppose that's your point, because if there is somebody who really can't make it because of their job, then we might have to look at that minority, perhaps. I don't know. Councillor
I wasn't in the full council meeting when the diary was discussed, if I put it that way. And as I recall, the only one that was left hanging in the air, if I put it that way, was the planning site inspections one. I mean, if someone can correct me on that, because there are a lot of issues in there. But I just wonder what did the council, did anything happen in the council when these times when that were discussed, other than the planning site inspections one?
It was raised, and they actually asked us to put it on this agenda, and that's why we've scooped up quickly to get the information for discussion here. Because I suspect we probably do a summarised version of what we've got here, maybe a recommendation from us to then go to full council for further discussion. I think that's what they were looking for from the meeting, wasn't it?
No. Madam Chair, we're talking about members here. Can I ask, what is the officers' take on this? Expecting them to start at 5 o'clock at night for meetings. I know they work flexible hours, but also we got officers, we got staff is involved as well. So what's the take from them?
In terms of full council, generally it's a leadership team. We are generally the only officers that tend to attend council because it is the member domain, and actually at council officers don't say very much because it's the debating chamber, and SLT would be very happy to start at 5. It would make no difference to us.
And I think for me it's, sorry, go on.
Can I go back? It was said earlier on about having officers here, for meetings, and they're sat here and they're here for a long time, and they might only be involved for 5 minutes. So, although you say they're quite happy, myself, I don't think there's need at any meeting to have a load of officers here waiting to be, to say anything, when they could be outside doing their work in their office. And I don't think it's right when they are here, some of them, and they're doing their work while the meeting's going on. I don't like that. But for myself, and I don't disagree with what Penny said, I would like to know the ones that are struggling to get to these meetings, can they get time off to come to these meetings? If they can, why aren't they taking the opportunities? And secondly, it doesn't matter. I'm like John. It doesn't matter. I can do 8 o'clock in the morning. I can do 5 o'clock at night. Yeah. But I would like to see a feedback, and I don't think this can be rushed. I think, although it was put back at the last council meeting for this committee to come to some solution, I don't think we should be rushing it.
I mean, I think well done, John and the team, because I think they've actually done a fab piece of work in terms of pulling evidence together to help us, come to a decision today. And, if you look at the evidence here, I think the consensus is to remain with the status quo, which is a 2 o'clock meeting. So in terms of making a recommendation to council, it's, do you take this as your evidence base and that forms the basis of your recommendation, or do you want further work undertaken which would, potentially inform your recommendation further? But for me, this is very clear cut, and that members wish to retain the status quo.
What's interesting when you look at the figures, so for example, Wrexham, who starts at 6:30 in the evening, and if you look at their diversity, they've got 13% female, which is one of the lowest, and 13% under the ages of 50, which is the lowest. So if you want to increase diversity, they're suggesting getting younger people in and more women in. Having it late actually doesn't do that with Wrexham. And if you look, as I say, there is just no conclusive evidence to suggest late evenings will increase your diversity. So, that is one of the reasons why we're looking at it. And in terms of having, for residents to be able to come out, I've been talking to various groups of people as I'm going out and around, and they said they wouldn't die in a ditch over. They said, it's online if I want to see it. So they're saying they're not that bothered, that I've spoken to anyway.
Can I just propose a status quo until the next election? It's up to the new councillors when they come in 2 years' time, or however many years' time, to decide, perhaps.
Chair, that could present some difficulties because when you take on this job, you currently know that times of meetings. So I think to say change it after you've been elected, you would need to have some positive information before you start. I just think that we've got to be fair to all the staff. We're only 43. How many staff are involved in this? There's 4,500, if you like. All right, I appreciate that not many of them are going to be attending council meetings, but there is a quality of life, and I think if you're getting up at, say, 8 o'clock in the morning to feed the kids or send off to school and all the rest of it, just thinking of the mothers and fathers, it really is a problem that still, I say, if we're not starting meetings till 5 o'clock in the evening, it's ridiculous. They've already been up for that. And probably coped with picking the kids or children up from school or whatever arrangement to make. A very long day, and I think you should bear that in mind. I think if you want, I think it's fairness towards all members of staff, not only to councillors. It's very easy and glib of us, it's just 43 of us, to say, yeah, we'll meet at 5. No, I'm totally opposed to starting at 5 o'clock. I just don't think it's fair.
Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I mean, most of us are on governors, most of us are on community councils. At least 8 nights a month are taken up with those. And it would be a shame if that was, you know, distracted, or we're rushing out of here or rushing in. No, I was second Anne's motion, status quo. I think we perhaps need to change the words as to what happens after the next election. We maybe have to set the principle before the election in order to give the people standing there their point of view.
In terms of timings of meetings, it is at the discretion of each of the meetings. So, for example, select committee chairs would, at the beginning of the new administration, whomever the councillors sitting on that committee, then they have the debate at that meeting as to what their start time is. So that principle is already there.
Thank you, Chair. Going back to what Penny was saying about people getting allowances, child allowance and all that, I know from experience there's people on this council, members, who are in situations, but they don't claim this allowance because it comes up on the expense sheet as what it's for, like care allowance, child. Is there somewhere we can get around that it's not saying what it's for?
Because that's an excellent point, but can we talk about them when we talk about the independent remuneration, because it comes up in there, and that is definitely one of the major points that comes up. So are you happy to hang on to that for further debate there? Just in terms of what people are saying, because to some degree it's not for us to make a decision on this, is it? I guess it's just, as you would say, Councillor Prosser, it's about the process. So are you happy then that we put this information together with a little brief summary and take it to full council for further debate and then for full council to vote on it?
Chair, that's all fine for us, but what about the staff? Have the staff had the same opportunity to vote on this issue?
This is not a matter for the staff. If you choose to hold a meeting at 5, if you choose to have a meeting at 5 o'clock, the meeting will be serviced by members. We operate an agile working environment, and whilst I do appreciate members' support of a work-life balance, if members did choose to move to 5 o'clock, then officers would be in attendance. So, in terms of the decision, are you going to make a recommendation to council? Yes. So you summarise this information and make a recommendation that it's status quo.
It's difficult, isn't it? I guess we'll have to go to vote. No, I'm saying we'll have to go to vote on that everybody's happy for that recommendation to be made. So recommendation for status quo until the next elections. Who wants to second that? Okay. No, you're right. What should we use? What wording should we use? Yep.
Third Chair, I think what you can say is this committee can't find any substantial reason to change the date at this time. The time at this date, if you see what I mean. But we are open to further deliberation on the topic as and when. But on the evidence presented, we can't see an overwhelming case to change the times.
Why can't we face the fact there will be no time that's appropriate for everybody? And when you take the job as an elected member, you surely take some commitment that you realise it will inconvenience you. Ask yourself, why are you wanting to do this job? Are you just doing it for the money, in which case hard lines? Or are you actually doing, well, I'm saying hard lines because I just find it amazing. At the full council meeting, 25 members spoke on that issue. We spoke on that more than really big issues that went through council. Absolutely amazing. No time will be right for everybody, so let's just get on with it.
Yeah, I'm in support of John. I mean, there's nothing conclusive about this. You've got to have something that looks fairly conclusive before we can change anything.
So can somebody, just so that it could be recorded, the recommendation is... for the foreseeable future,
Based on the evidence.
based on the evidence.
Considered by
Okay. And who wants to second that? And vote for yes on that recommendation? One, two. Right. So this will go on the agenda with that information, so all members get that, with the recommendation, and then I'm sure there'll be further discussion at the next full council, and then a vote, and then we can put it to bed, really. Yeah. Is that okay? Is it too late?
Madam Chair, could this not go on? Madam Chair, could this not go on for the next council meeting? We've got our chair here of the council as late correspondence.
Late correspondence, yeah. I'm just very mindful that full council were really keen, weren't they, to bring it to the next, and they said get this through as quickly as possible, yeah.
Why not? It's Monday today, and the meeting is in a week on Thursday.
Because most of the information's there, it's just like a good summary.
that's
Brilliant, that's great. It's just because that was the request. Thank you, very good.
Question, Chairman, while it's in my mind. If I want to put a motion or a question to council, what's the closing time, please? Midnight tonight.
Right, okay, we're doing well here. Look at that, 3:05, and we're on to the last. Now, this is to receive this report. There's not a lot we can do. We can't put any response in, and it's just really to find out if there are any questions or surprises, observations you want to make as a result of it.
Yeah, following on from what you just said, you're absolutely correct, Madam Chairman. There's nothing we can do about it. It's there. We can just accept, note it, accept it, call it what you like. But it's there. The decision has been made. It's out of our hands. We just have. That's what we can do. Is, as they say, accept it. I propose we do that.
When I was reading through it, because it was on page 42, the panel's determinations for 2015-16, there's just 4 sides there, and for me that kind of summarised sort of their suggestions and the changes. Just a couple of issues that we had a discussion about, because I've had residents tweeting me and email me and saying how much increase we've had, given that they're paying 4.95% increase on their council tax. And I think last year we got 0.9% increase. This year there is no increase at all. And I think it'd be useful, you know, that gets out there. The other issue that was brought up was childcare allowance. And definitely I think there are people who are nervous about claiming childcare allowance. There was discussions at the meeting that I was at, I guess making a plea right across party political lines that it's not used as a political truncheon, and to kind of encourage it and respect if people need to claim that money in order to you know, to do their job, then they should be encouraged to do so, really.
Can we make a plea that it's compounded rather than us all having the basic salary? Everybody's salary could be different, but it doesn't say why it's different.
Sorry, it isn't just child allowance, it's a carer's allowance. Yes. That involves, you know, confidentiality, and that worries me, that people are not going to claim it because of what's put down.
It's an interesting point you're saying about compounding it, because some of the discussions that they had at the meeting were saying that actually it should be separated out, so that you have...
But the very reason we're talking about it is can we hide it in some way? Why should a person with young children or with an elderly parent be put aside as being something special? They're actually special people because they're doing it.
Tracy, can I just to because this, I guess this is again an area for a recommendation. How are we showing these expenses, particularly on annual reports and on the website?
In terms of what we have to publish, it's prescribed. and so we have to publish the information in a format. For me, it's how do we get members to acknowledge there is no stigma to caring allowance, there is no stigma attached to family allowance. It is a fact of life that people have people that they need to care for, and they have children that they need to care for. I used to have to pay a childminding cost, and if I could have claimed an allowance to go towards it, I would have done so. And I think it's about how do we remove the stigma?
Yeah.
But I think what we could do as an authority is write to the review panel and make the point that, you know, people aren't taking it up because they are concerned that it is out there in the public domain for whatever reason. And each individual will have their own reasons. But certainly from my perspective, it's how do we, get members to claim what they're entitled to.
I think that's a good proposal that you actually write to the Commission and seek some way forward, because I know people are deterred from taking up allowances. That's a really good point to have brought up.
Yeah. Just to say at the meeting it was brought up, and they've absolutely highlighted that as an issue. And so one idea was not to advertise, present it, but again, because of transparency, they're saying that it has to be shown. So it's a really difficult area. So we're happy to receive this as it is. With a recommendation, just to highlight again, yes, that would be good. Just two last points, just before we finish. Just something that was raised at the last meeting that we didn't kind of log it anywhere, but I thought it was a really good area for exploration. It was something that Tracy brought forward. And I was mindful we did it for the white paper. So one of the areas we were saying as a committee, how do we engage with Welsh Government or Welsh Assembly? And as you know, they bring out legislation and bills, and people can write evidence to put into the bill in order to change it and to develop it. With the white paper, we've put in, there was a process we agreed to, so that everybody had information on what the white paper was about, that it would go to full council, that we try and get a paper together that we'll all agree on when we're actually putting evidence in to influence that paper. And perhaps this could be a process we could put on the next agenda to look at what process we can recommend for us to be a little bit more proactive in terms of cross-party political lines and as an authority to influence up-and-coming bills. And I'll hand over to Tracy.
Just as you were talking there, Chair, I'm just thinking that actually it's something that might be useful as a coordinating board agenda item, because there are a number of consultation documents that come in. Obviously, we've had two that we've considered. We've had one that we've considered today, and obviously the Independent Remuneration Panel does do consultations, and actually sometimes we don't get very much member input in terms of responding to consultations that come out of Welsh Government that do actually impact on the organisation. And the coordinating board may be a good clearinghouse to say, we've got this bill or this consultation document coming through the organisation, actually which is the best committee to actually consider it and make a response on behalf of the council. Just a thought.
Thank you, Chairman. I shared with you today at the beginning of the day how frustrated I am that the Welsh Assembly Government have decided to run a marathon with bicycles through our wards on the 14th of June without any consultation whatsoever. I have a bride at the moment who is in orbit somewhere because she and her guests cannot get to the hotel for a wedding which has been booked for 2 years. How simple it would have been for an individual in Cardiff to present himself on our patch to find out whether he was going to cause any problems. So we need consultation not only on bills but on events they're planning in our area without any pre-consultation. It's when this goes public, all hell's going to let loose. And we'll get the kicking. I got it last year over the bicycle race through my ward when we closed it down for 6 hours. Once again, without any consultation. That was our fault. But this is Welsh Assembly's fault, and I think we should sort it. Whole day. Dreadful. You wait till we have to pick up the helicopter
Can I say that I'm affected, it's not my ward, but... It's not my ward, but I'm very, very much involved because of other local businesses. I live there, so it inconveniences me, but yeah, I can live with it. But there are several businesses, and one is a garden centre. It's Father's Day, and they do Sunday lunches, and it's a huge business. As well as a wedding there's another wedding in Courtbledon, and there are carers who are needed along the route, and nobody has been consulted. Not once. None of the businesses, as Peter will say. So, well, yes, we know we have to support Monmouthshire, and it has to be said that we enjoy seeing these cycle races, etc. But this is an arrogance that is absolutely supreme. We are getting it left, right and centre. Now, they've got themselves together, these businesses, and they have contacted the Argus. So, Councillor Greenland has been involved as well as Peter Clark, and you know, things are going on. I've just been to see Kelly, and she has informed us that another meeting is going on with the Welsh Government. So things may change a little bit, a tiny bit, but it's too late for lots. Now, many, many thousands of pounds are going to be lost. But more importantly than that, these brides. One was contacted the Welsh Government and was told, well, wouldn't their guests like to watch the cycling? I don't think there is an answer to that.
Rather regrettable that our Assembly member doesn't sort of update us on things in the area. Well, we've got a couple of members, haven't we?
This definitely is an issue, and I'm just wondering, should we put it on the next agenda in terms of looking at the processes? Because again, we can't make decisions. We're about, are the process there in place for us to kind of be able to link more closely and influence, you know, what's going on with Welsh Government?
Doesn't bother me, it's not in my ward, but it's so arrogant. I mean, surely they must have a checklist, mustn't they? We would. We'd have, you know, have you informed blah, 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 you know, etc., etc. It's just sheer arrogance, isn't it?
So we'll put that on the next agenda then. Yeah, excellent. And then just finally, we saw in the white paper a suggestion that there should be youth forums. We do have a youth forum in Monmouthshire. As chair, I've sort of gone along to them, explaining what the processes are, and also the youth worker who coordinates it. She's been here, shown around, and she's met with various people who were just here, really, including the leader, which was very useful for her. Can I put it on the next agenda again, a little bit of a discussion, and how can we further have a closer relationship with them in terms of them being able to influence decisions and policies that are made from Monmouthshire County Council level?
Sorry, they were involved in the open communication engagement meetings.
Yes.
They were very heavily involved, and not this year so much perhaps, but last year definitely. And they enjoyed taking part and participating. I don't think they want to be too heavily involved, and we expect them to be here, and I know it's mine. But yes, I mean, perhaps we could just say that we're ready, we're approachable. They can approach us at any time, or we could invite them at set times, or, you know, whatever. If they wanted one of us to attend a meeting, we could do it that way. But they did enjoy the engagements.
I find it useful, Chairman, for the Chairman's cadets to be involved as well, perhaps with that, and be informed at least, because they come and sit through a meeting, which they must find really heavy. And we don't sort of, okay, you might give them a cup of coffee or whatever when they arrive, but, you know, it would be nice for them to have some involvement as well, perhaps. I don't know what John thinks.
Chair, yes, as you know, I introduced the chairman's cadet for my term of office because I wanted the youngsters to be involved, exactly that. And of course I had cadets from across 6 services: Army, Navy, firefighting, St John's Ambulance, Police, and Air Force. And And, you know, they've come, and I must admit, some of them, when they've come to observe the meeting, one of them put their hand up because they wanted to start contributing in the middle of the council meeting. So I do see some mileage, and I think what we should do is look at best practice, because there are other authorities who have got sort of youth councils and various things like that. And I think it'll be useful to find what the best practice is and how we can engage in a better way. We do engage now, and we've got these different forums and things, but there's always room for improvement in anything you do in life, and so it might be worth just looking at what is best practice, and are there any other things we're missing which we could introduce to improve the engagement with the youth. So we do it, but let's see if there's anything we can improve, and I support that.
So I'll put that on the next agenda as well. Before we go on, oh yes, go on.
Sorry, Chair, when you say you'll put that on the agenda for next time, I would rather receive some kind of report on what is current best practice, so we got something to chew on rather than just put it on the agenda. Yeah.
Yeah, if we do some background sort of research and then kind of bring it, yeah, that'd be good. The next meeting then is the 11th of May, is it? Yeah. And that'll be here in this room, 2 o'clock.
Chair, I'm not looking at my diary now, but I'm pretty sure 11th of May is the annual general meeting, is the council meeting of deferred business on the Thursday. Or is it the...
Tuesday the 12th, it's got annual meeting, would that be it?
So, it's the 11th, is it? Sorry.
Monday the 11th.
Oh, I've been telling everybody my term ends on the 11th. It's the 12th.
It says annual meeting, is
Yeah,
that it?
yeah,
Tuesday.
okay, sorry. Yeah, I thought it was the 11th.
I've had a word with Tracy, and I was going to suggest that if I do sort of just a brief report, 2 sides, just looking at what we've achieved in the year and sort of outstanding issues to carry on to the following year. People happy with that? Look at that, 1 hour and 20 minutes, boom, good.